Everybody, welcome, gather around. Come on in, grab a seat, everybody. Everybody over the live chat. Hello, welcome. It's great to see everybody again. This week, like always, we're gonna cover something really quickly that I just wanted to share. Actually, this week is different. I lied there. I figured we've just got so many questions that come in over in the YouTube live chat. Last week, I was trying to follow up with people afterwards to answer questions. So I'm not going to take the Instagram questions this time around. I'm still going to answer all the questions on Instagram, over on Instagram. But today we'll just try to focus in on the questions here on YouTube and answer those. To start things off, there were two book-related stories I wanted to share. One, the Mind Workout / You Are Not a Rock came out in Taiwan. This is the Mandarin edition. So I thought this, I loved the design. As you can see there for everybody who reads Mandarin, there's the explanation of you, of course, and a rock, which you are not because you have feelings. So we'll add that to the stack back there. And so thank you. Hi to everybody in Taiwan. And then over here, this book is, I'll explain what this book is all about. So this right here is the exercise myth. And this is an original copy. I had to track one of these down. It's not really sold in bookstores anymore. And this was part of a trend. How to describe this? So to give you some background on this, the reason I grabbed this is because I've seen a bunch of articles, and there was one out recently in the New Scientist. And basically the title, I'm going to do a video on it coming up. Basically the title was Meditation and Mindfulness Can Cause Anxiety and Depression. And when you looked into the research though, it would be like putting out a research study that says weightlifting causes injury. Or running causes injury, running causes heart attacks. And what people forget is that physical fitness, personal physical fitness, is relatively new. This book was published, I believe, in 1984, 1983, somewhere right around there. Yeah, 1984. So think, 1984, doctors, we got I believe a cardiologist here who was at Cornell, put out books and research. There was a bunch of research too, cautioning people against exercise because this new fad of people exercising and like jogging and weightlifting and like wearing short shorts with your tank top tucked in, a very dangerous fad, was spreading around the world. And doctors were very worried that people would get injured and hurt themselves. And so it's easy to forget because now fitness is such a big part of culture around the world, really. But when it first came out, there was, just like we see now, of course, meditation and mindfulness are not new, just like exercise. But when it was becoming a popular personal practice, there was research and a lot of doctors who were very vocal, very public, publishing books, telling people not to exercise, that it could really be dangerous, this new fad of exerting yourself. And I think it's really important to remember this when you're seeing an article about meditation and mindfulness. That problems can come up while you're meditating. Practice of mindfulness, absolutely. Just like if I go to the gym and I'm doing squats with really bad form, I'm probably gonna injure my back. Or who knows, I don't know, drop some weights on my foot or something like that. I don't get to walk out of the gym and announce that squats are bad. Squats cause injury. But when we see that in articles, like that article in the New Scientist, where they're saying meditation and mindfulness can cause anxiety and depression, and what was hilarious too when you dug into the article, I can't even remember the exact number now, but it was a single digit percentage of the people studied had a bad experience. And that totally makes sense. Just like Lots of people get injured at the gym all the time. You can't blame the gym for that. You can't blame exercise for that. Yeah, absolutely. When we're doing anything, we can do it in a way that creates injury. Just like we can use exercise as a compulsion, we can use food as a compulsion. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Well, anytime. Same with therapy. Like you could put out a study that says therapy causes mental illness, or therapy causes panic attacks. Lots of people, right, have panic attacks after therapy. Maybe you're digging into something really sensitive and intense during your session, and afterwards you have that very visceral physical reaction. It's totally part of it, and that's okay. And that's something you can talk about with your therapist and say, hey, here's what happened. How do I handle this differently in the future? How do we do therapy differently? Maybe just like if you're getting injured when you work out, talk about how you can do it differently. Okay, so that's great, everybody. I'll update later. I've already started reading a bit of the exercise myth, and yeah, when you read it, it all makes sense. It's just kind of saying, yeah, you can get injured when you exercise, which hopefully everybody knows is not a groundbreaking insight worth headlines. I see everybody coming on in to the chat on the side. Welcome, everybody. Throw your questions up there. If I miss any questions, it's okay to post it again. But But if you're posting the same question over and over again, you might just be chasing reassurance. So let's see what we got happening over here. Thank you for the video, love. And Emma, you asked an interesting question here. Can I have OCD but not diagnosable? Something that can be important to remember is that what we refer to as mental illness diagnoses, like they are labels in a book. The one criteria that is something that I'm often very critical of is what I call the distress clause. And so you'll see this in a bunch of different diagnoses in that book, the DSM. So the Diagnostic and Standards Manual. So in the DSM, there'll be a bunch of criteria with OCD as well. There's a criteria for the diagnosis that basically says, are you distressed by either the compulsions or the obsessions? And that label is particularly for people who are distressed by what they're experiencing. But what I find really important to emphasize to everybody is that you're struggling with your mental health long before it distresses you. And a criticism of the DSM is that it's reactive. It's rather than getting preventive and proactive with taking care of our mental health and fitness, it basically says, once you have a meltdown, once you have a complete breakdown, then we will diagnose you with this mental illness. And I think that's a terrible way to approach it. So similar to physical fitness, we want to be proactively taking care of our mental health before there are problems. So I would say, yeah, if you've been looking at OCD, you're like, oh, I don't think I qualify, like it's not diagnosable. I'd say that doesn't mean you can't make healthy changes. So I find it really important to shift the focus, not to do I have a diagnosis, but am I doing the things I want to be doing in life? Because that's something we can work on, regardless of a diagnosis. Just like you don't need a diagnosis of a physical disorder to go to the gym, to build skills, same with mental health. So yeah, whether there's a diagnosis or not, I don't get too worried about that because we can always work on our mental health and fitness. Vikas, I see you recently read The Mind Workout. Oh, watch out. So when you say about You Are Not a Rock, I appreciate you wanting to read You Are Not a Rock. And I appreciate everybody who has bought both of them. However, The Mind Workout and You Are Not a Rock, honestly, yeah, here's The Mind Workout. Here's You Are Not a Rock. Every book in this pile is the same book. The Mind Workout and You Are Not a Rock are a result of publishers, traditional publishers, not knowing about the internet. So the UK publisher and the US publisher wanted different versions with different titles. Not kind of thinking ahead to the future where of course people are reading the book from all over the world, and they just go online and they see a book in English, and then, oh, there's another book also in English, but they're actually basically the same book. They are different. There are some differences. Like You Are Not a Rock came after, but if you've read one, you don't. I appreciate the support, but you don't need to read both. Yep. If you read the Mind Workout, yeah, the exercises would be the same. There are no different exercises in You Are Not a Rock. With some of the other content I changed. Like it was basically when I got to do You Are Not a Rock, came out pretty much a year after in the US, I got to do a rewrite. And so, yeah, You Are Not a Rock is just the slightly more updated version of the Mind Workout. Diego, you asked to talk about ACT. Thank you. I saw you posted the question on Instagram as well. So if you mean in a very general sense, acceptance, and there's a video I've got up here on YouTube. I don't know if somebody wants to, I don't know if you can do this. If you can find the video, there's a video I have on CBT, ACT, ERP, and DBT, and there's donuts. And so I explain a bit of the differences there. But basically what I find really great about acceptance and commitment therapy is that it's about focusing first on what you care about and where you want to go in life. And so first we look at, okay, like what do you want to be doing in life? How do you want to be spending your time and energy? Do you want to be spending your time and energy chasing thoughts and trying to control uncertainties? Do you want to spend your time and energy going back to check that unplugged appliance is really unplugged, or that text message you sent didn't say anything offensive? You can spend your time and energy doing that. Or you can spend your time and energy doing things you value. And so ACT is really about starting with that, with values, and then learning different skills to notice the stuff in our heads or notice experiences around us, and then choose to give our time and energy to those things we value. And that's where that would differ from, say, some older types of CBT. So ACT is still a form of cognitive behavioral therapy, because cognitive behavioral therapy is just a big umbrella term for types of therapy that involve changes up here and changes in our behavior. And so there are many, many different types of CBT. And ACT is one of them. ACT is what's known as the third wave of CBT. So it's a newer form of it. And what I really like about ACT is that it's a set of skills we can keep in our lives forever, because you can always have an experience and choose to do something you value. And what we also see that's really useful about ACT is that it's what's called transdiagnostic. And it's even used now in hospitals when people are running into physical issues, because it's about accepting experiences, difficult experiences, like real difficult experiences, and choosing how we want to spend our time and energy given the context in which we find ourselves. So often those real experiences are physical pain or injury or a tragic event, a death, as well as any kind of mental experience, right? Whether we're having an intrusive thought or a voice or just some emotion like anxiety. Those are all experiences we can accept and then commit to doing things we value. And so that's why I really like ACT and often recommend it to people, because it's so flexible. Like whatever the difficult experience you're running into, you can apply ACT skills with that. So it's even great in things like business, because there's often things happening around us, and we want to do the things we value with our company. Yep. Thank you. Yeah, some of you are noticing. Remember last week or 2 weeks ago, I did get a new computer and camera, and they didn't work. But now I've got the camera. We've got a better streaming setup going on here. So that's really about improving the accessibility. I think, we want to make sure people can log in, can understand and engage with everything. So yes, you are right. The streaming quality, although I just saw it's on autofocus right now, so I think it's struggling with my hand gestures. There's a question up here. How do I feel again? I've been very apathetic lately, and I feel like it's affecting the people around me. Something that helped me with feelings was seeing how we get stuck in the same kinds of compulsions, checking to have a feeling, trying to control our feelings before doing the things that we really care about. And a realization that was very useful for me was that feelings, one, I can have any feeling or have no feeling. Two, feelings come after actions, not before. But usually when we're struggling, we're very focused on getting a feeling and doing lots of things to try to chase a feeling before we do the stuff that matters. And this is in so many different areas. Like even if you think about a really stereotypical compulsion, like somebody checking the door lock, checking to make sure they locked the door before they go to work. What they're doing there is trying to get a feeling, trying to get some certainty before they can go and do this thing that they really need to go and do or that they care about, whatever. And so what we want to learn how to do is to not check to get that feeling before doing the thing that matters. And we bring this practice, this kind of unhealthy pattern, into many different areas of our life, including just doing anything that we enjoy doing. We start to look for that feeling. And of course, like any compulsion, the more we're looking for a feeling, the more we're trying to control it, the more we don't have it. So at first, because we kind of work ourselves into that where we're not feeling the things we think we should feel, at first it is about kind of faking it and saying like, okay, what are the actions that I want to do in my life? And I'm going to do them even if I don't feel what I think I should feel. And in fact, what was really helpful for me was exploring, how do I give an emotion? Actually, I want to do something that I care about. I don't have to get an emotion from that. I'm going to give gratitude or give thanks or give enjoyment to that practice, and really making that shift from always trying to like get feelings, because that just gets us stuck, to instead giving feelings. Can be a really fascinating switch. Michael, you asked, do you have any advice on dealing with physical compulsions? So I get a physical trigger sensation, and then the urge to touch in the right way is very strong and stays with me for hours. Whenever we're running into those compulsions around doing things the right way, often it can help to take a step back and look throughout our lives at control and certainty and getting things right. And so this is something that comes up with coaching clients a lot. We'll often explore all the different ways in our lives that we try to get things right. And then we'll set up a bunch of exercises around risking things being wrong. And it can be a really wide array of stuff, from even wearing clothes we don't think we should wear in a particular situation to letting somebody else pick what we get on a menu at a restaurant. Because we start to see we're just always trying to get things right. And from that, the brain learns. Brain says, oh, like you really want to get things right. Well, like here's a whole bunch of other things you can try to get right. So that's one thing I'd look at. But I'd also look at, in our lives, how much uncertainty are you experiencing around you right now? Because another thing that's very common is the brain reacts to uncertainty in our lives. Lots of things we don't control, especially if there's lots of things happening to us that we don't control. The brain will try to give you something to control. So it can also be that, it's like we're starting a new job, there's a pandemic going on, maybe we got a baby on the way, we're moving houses, we've got, maybe right now a neighbor who's always like blasting like super loud music at all hours of the day, and we're like, I've got to sleep, I've got all this happening. All these things we don't control. There's systemic issues, you're running into like systemic racism, sexism, political issues, a country in turmoil, name whatever the systemic factor may be. And it's very natural that the brain reacts by trying to give us something to control. And so that's another thing I would look at. Just how much uncertainty is there around you right now? And those are kind of, and I would say this to everybody, there's always kind of the two things that we want to look at. Look at the context. So what's happening around you in terms of uncertainty and things coming at you. But then also look at internally. What are you teaching your brain? And we want to look at both, because both can play a huge role in sparking compulsions. Here's a question. about anatomy of a compulsion. Yeah, if you haven't seen that video, it's a way of understanding kind of compulsions are just a tiny piece of actually cutting out compulsions. So the question here is, in your video, Anatomy of a Compulsion, you talk about the importance of changing unhelpful beliefs to prevent developing new compulsions. My question is, how do I find out my unhelpful beliefs? Something that can be a fun exercise is to just take a week. So say for the week ahead, Sunday right now, maybe it's Monday where you are already, look at the week ahead and just explore. And you might have a pad of paper with you or something like that. And just be curious about beliefs. And it's really just that at first. Asking why, whenever the brain throws up something, we think, oh, I can't do that. Or yeah, say you want to get started on, you have this business idea. You always want to get going on it, but you're like, oh, it's not the right time, or I'm not ready, or something like that. Ask yourself, why do you believe that? What beliefs are at work there? When you get up in the morning, what do you do in the morning? What beliefs are at work? Why do you do what you do? Why do you think you have to? Things you're doing in relationships, things you do online, food, fitness, the works, career, your home life, everything. Why do you do it? What are the beliefs at work there? And then, at first it's just that curiosity about it. If we're doing compulsions, why do I feel I need to do this compulsion? Why do I dislike anxiety? What beliefs do I have about emotions? And then from there, we start to, kind of take a critical look at them. Are they useful to me? If I want to do the things I want to do in life, what beliefs are going to help me do them? And what beliefs are going to get in the way? And then from there, we start to look at how we can dismantle that. I always find it with any of this stuff, a great approach is just give yourself a week of being curious. I call them festivals of curiosity. You kind of pick this week, we're just being curious about beliefs. And everywhere, you can just kind of take that step back and yeah, be curious. You get to do it without judgment. It's not right away oh, this is a bad belief, or I shouldn't have a belief like that. Yeah, any belief is fine, but which ones are going to help you? Alex, that is too kind of you. I appreciate it. I will keep doing this. Rodrigo, you got to go. Tips for obsessing over a memory and constantly worrying about having done something terrible, but not being sure if one actually has. Yes, so many compulsions are going to be about uncertainty. And trying to get rid of uncertainty, and getting over this stuff is really about letting that uncertainty be there. And so this, for example, is a thing we would look at with beliefs. It's so implicit in there where you say, but not being sure if one actually has. So not being sure if one actually has done the terrible thing. But why do you believe you have to be sure? Why is it wrong to be unsure? And when you start to pull that apart, you might start to see some interesting beliefs, and you can really ask yourself, well, is that helpful to me? And what I would also look at, though, is compulsions inside our heads are the same as compulsions outside of our heads. It's so the way I often describe this, if we're checking a memory, it's like grabbing a book. So if I was constantly going about my life, but it'd be like a photo album. And every time I was talking to somebody, I was like, oh, okay, no, keep talking. I just want to check here to remember exactly what happened. No, keep talking. I'm paying attention. Oh, okay, did I really do that? Did I say what I think I said? What if I hurt them? What if, I should go find this person and ask them if they're angry at me. And we're just ignoring so many things in our lives. And if we were doing that outside of our heads, we would recognize that as a compulsion, right? I have a compulsion to look in photo albums every time I'm talking to somebody or trying to do something important. And right, so we've got to cut out that compulsion. And that'll be about practicing feeling that urge to check and not doing it. It is exactly the same in our heads. Often what's the case, though, is that we've developed a practice with the stuff in our heads of just always doing the compulsions. And recognize that compulsions aren't just about things you hate. But if your brain throws up something you like and you're fine with checking that, then of course it's going to be a struggle not to check things you hate and dislike. And so for me, it really helped to recognize I had to change the way I interacted with all of the stuff in my head, not just when it comes to terrible things. And that can often be a great way to start learning how to do that. So actually, I wouldn't go immediately after trying to cut out the compulsion around the terrible thing. I would learn how to notice something in my head, kind of notice in my head an urge to check something. And it might be something we like maybe when we're online, the thought pops up, oh, I wonder what my favorite actor is doing right now. And so we're immediately, Googling them online or something like that. Or we come across something in an article and we're just always clicking the links like, oh yeah, I'm really interested in that. I want to know that. But what we're doing there is teaching our brain that when you throw up an uncertainty brain, I will react. I will go and chase certainty about it. And so then the brain learns. And then it's very difficult not to do that around an uncertainty that terrifies us. So a great way to start learning to cut out that compulsion is to go after that stuff that we think we like, where we're like, it's normal. Like what's wrong with researching, some random concept or event that popped up online? There's nothing. But ask yourself, what are you teaching your brain? And if you don't want your brain to do that all the time, then you can start to change that, right? It's a general practice of kind of having an uncertainty and showing the brain, hey, yeah, we can have uncertainties, but I'm going to do the thing I value. And the thing I value right now is this. Alex, you asked, do you have any advice on how to have and maintain a meditation practice without making it a compulsion? Well, I do. I find myself trying to push away thoughts and feelings while I meditate and then doing that in life. Yeah. So super important. This is one of the reasons, like when we were talking earlier about that meditation article, like really they didn't seem to understand meditation. Meditation is about having any thought or feeling or whatever, right? Like if you experience depersonalization or anxiety, voices, panic attacks while meditating, I mean, that's fine. The point is not to not have experiences. The point is to have experiences and change our relationship with them. And so that's what the practice is. So one of the things I find that can be really helpful with the meditation practice is one, taking away the kind of idea or goal that it's about trying to fix and control stuff. So one way to do that is to really just make it about the time spent meditating or the time spent sitting. And that's the only goal. Like, did I sit for longer this week than I did last week? And really making that the thing we want to pursue. And setting, I just want to be able to sit for 50 minutes without moving. Who cares what happens in the head? And then I want to practice, maybe I want to sit for 50 minutes, noticing the sensation of contact between my body and the seat beneath me. So picking those goals that are very much completely unrelated to thoughts and feelings. And we just keep bringing ourselves back to that again and again. The other thing that I would point out with the meditation practice for everybody, a lot of the meditation apps and stuff like that, they will start you with like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. But for most people, it's going to take you 10 to 15 minutes just to start to shut up your brain. So if you're only meditating for 10 minutes, yeah, like I would see it as totally natural that you just spend 10 minutes with the brain spinning its wheels. Because as soon as you sit down, the brain's like, what about this? What about that? Why are you sitting down? You should go and fix this emotion. Are you anxious? Are you in pain? What's going on? And it takes some time. The brain is like a puppy, and especially if we've been spending all day spinning our wheels. Now it's like, why are we stopping? We've got to fix stuff and control stuff. And it'll take you a few minutes to get that brain puppy to sit down beside you and shut up. So meditate for longer. Say one of the reasons, I don't want to be cynical, but one of the reasons I think after checking out those meditation apps, remember I did the free meditation app review and I was going to do the paid one, but I didn't do a paid meditation app review video because they all seem to be holding people at like these like short sits, precisely so that people don't develop a practice. Because then you need the app, right? If you don't develop a strong practice and you don't learn how to sit for longer, you're always going to need something there, and you're always going to struggle, because 10 minutes of meditating, yeah, the brain is just going to spin its wheels. So try longer, see what happens. You may find that, yeah, maybe the first 10 minutes or something like that's always going to be busy, and that's fine. But after that first 10 minutes, you could sit for 40 minutes, and the brain is like, oh, okay, this is what we're going to do, and I kind of like having a rest. Yes, I see some other people pointing out that they had thought the Mind Workout and You Are Not a Rock are two different books. If you've read one, I know though a bunch of people have read two. They bought two. They make good gifts. Pick your favorite and give one away. And speaking of which, there was a question right there. The Lord's butterfly. Irritation towards other people is a big intrusive feeling for me. I feel awful that I'm an awful person for my feeling of the irritation, and it goes into my fears of being a bad Christian. I think non-judgment, and right, judgment of feelings and judgment of others is a major practice when we're struggling with our mental health. But it's also a superpower of our brains. And I think there's a couple things to look at here. One, absolutely, it's really useful to work on the practice of non-judgment and learning how to not attach those labels and frustrations to other people, precisely because what often happens is that the brain goes into judgment mode, so it attaches a judgment onto other people. And then, the judgment machinery is spun up. So then it also attaches judgments on us. So it's like, oh, that person sucks. Oh, now you suck for thinking that person sucks. And the brain just goes into overdrive. And so part of the practice is, starting to show the brain that, we don't have to turn on that judgment machinery all the time. It is really useful to us. So on the toolkit site, there is a non-judgment course now. Precisely because of that. I find non-judgment is such a fundamental skill. But it's not that we can't judge things. It's really about recognizing that we have this superpower and we just got to learn how to use it. And it doesn't have to mean, I think this is really important, it doesn't have to mean that that other person we're irritated by, it doesn't have to mean we think what they're doing is good. They could be doing something really terrible. And we want to be able to see that for what it is, not have to stick lots of judgments on it and get caught up in it, because then we end up doing all these other compulsions and we're judging ourselves and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's really about bringing it back to values and shifting that focus to what do we want to create? What do we want to build? What do we want to do? What that person is doing right now is not what we want to create and build. So how am I going to take us in that direction? And if that person doesn't want to go in that direction, that's totally fine. But I'm not going to throw lots of judgments on them or myself and kind of weigh myself down with that. But it's totally a skill, so completely natural that we run into struggling with it. But I would say it really helped me to see that judgments are the first compulsion. We're usually attaching a judgment to something, and then that brings up lots of feelings, and then we're reacting to that and trying to control more. So it's great to notice, and then it's great to be kind to ourselves, because the brain goes into overdrive and just uses that. I see somebody said, "Please grow a beard." I don't, it requires work and maintenance and care, and I like those things, but we'll see. Sometimes I grow a beard. Coaching clients sometimes get to see the beard, but usually for videos I've shaved the beard. Youngchun, you asked about how was my first tattoo experience. It was great. Tattoos are something that often come up as something we may struggle with because of the permanence. Right? We might struggle with a lot of anxiety and uncertainty around that. My first tattoo, you can't I don't think anybody has probably seen it. It's back here. It's on my back. And yeah, one of the first things I'll do when the pandemic is a little bit less pandemic-y is go and get a new tattoo. I've got lots of plans for new tattoos. Nella, yes, I've been having depersonalization and derealisation for 3 months now. I've started on meds 3 days ago, but I'm afraid that I won't be able to get out. When you say, should I stop it? Can you explain what you're referring to as should I stop it? I mean, I'm not going to have an opinion on medication either way. Like, that's for you to talk about with your psychiatrist. But if you're talking about the compulsions that fuel depersonalization and derealisation, those are really useful to cut out. So it helped me just see that, yeah, depersonalization and derealisation. So when we don't feel like ourselves, or we don't feel like the world is real, it really helped me to understand that's something I do. Like, that's a natural result of, like we were talking about earlier, chasing certainty and right feelings. If we're doing a lot of chasing certainty and checking and controlling, depersonalization and derealisation are just a natural extension of that. So I always encourage people to see it not as a problem, but as the symptom of the problem. The real problem being the compulsions that we're engaging in. Because the brain's just trying to help us. It's like, oh, you really want to know if things are real. You really want to know if things feel right. Well, here's something huge you can do lots of compulsions around, and you'll never be able to be certain about it. And so always, if we're engaged in the practice of checking and controlling compulsions, very natural that we end up really experiencing those symptoms. So kind of seeing them as pain. It's an indicator of the thing we're doing that's leading to that pain. So like, if I'm hitting myself in the face with a frying pan, I'll experience a lot of pain in my face. And I may go online or go to the hospital and be like, I have a face pain disorder. What do I do with it? How can I get relief from this pain? But the real problem is not the pain. That pain is simply a result of me hitting myself in the face with a frying pan. And I may love hitting myself in the face with a frying pan. I may think like, I am so good at swinging it and I love the frying pan. But now I'm seeing that the result of that is something I dislike. And so I'm gonna have to cut out my frying pan swinging practice, even though I am on the world championship frying pan baseball team. Victor, you asked, how many meditation retreats do you attend and how was your experience there? I have been to 3 like long meditation retreats. So like longer than a week. So I think they're all just over a week, like 9 days, 10 days, 11 days. And so I've been to 3. I was going to go to a whole bunch more this year, but they're not really happening. So I've been exploring how to do meditation retreats at home. And I think it's wonderful to explore different practices around meditation retreats, because I've done Soto Zen retreat, Vipassana retreat, and then a Zen retreat in like the Plum Village lineage, which is different from a Soto Zen retreat. It's so beneficial to get that deep experience, to really meditate and have that space to meditate a lot. So it's kind of like the way I think of it, I approach meditation like a sport. So going to a meditation retreat is like doing a tournament or something like that, where you really just get the space and time to delve into your practice and really improve it. So I always encourage people to check them out and just know that they are all very different. For example, like the Soto Zen retreat, silent the whole time, very, very focused on the practice. But then the Plum Village retreat, we were talking the whole time. I mean, people could have their phones or whatever, and not as much emphasis on the meditation, but the emphasis was more on mindful communication and building relationships. And so both of those are really useful. It's really useful to be able to sit silently, focus on your practice. It's also very useful to understand how to build community, engage with people. And both of those practices are valuable practices that we can enjoy intensely. So yeah, watch out for the brain, like trying to get it right and attach a lot of meaning to retreats and stuff like that. No, these are exercises we can practice and explore and be curious about and try different meditation modalities to find the ones that maybe we enjoy, but also the ones that we may be challenged by, because that may be where we need to do the most work. Joe, yes, when one is affected by intrusive thoughts that are blended with too much polar opposite emotions, how can one sift through it when focusing on sifting through it only sparks more negative intrusive thoughts? Yeah, the sifting through it is the compulsion. And in fact, what you're always kind of guaranteed with, if the brain is going to throw up whatever tricks you into doing the compulsions. So it can really help to take a step back from the intrusive thoughts, or like this is the same with something like depersonalization and derealisation. They are not relevant. They're just experiences that we then react to with more compulsions. And we may see that as useful, right? We may think like, I'm really good at sifting through it and understanding it. But that sifting through is the problem. And so if your brain knows, okay, I can get him to do compulsions if I give him an intrusive thought and then I make him feel something he thinks he shouldn't feel while having that intrusive thought. Right? Like, or we're like, oh, I just saw a horrible violent image, but I feel happy. Am I a horrible person? I better look into this. I better be certain. And then we're off to compulsion town. Like that's the problem. Where we go, oh no, like this shouldn't be there. I've got to figure it out. I'm going to go chase certainty. That's the thing to cut out. We can have any thought or feeling. Yeah, we can have horrible, violent, intrusive thought, and we can have an emotion at the exact same time that we might label as positive or arousing or good or anything like that. Danielle, you asked, can we train our brain to study 10 hours a day? Why do you want to study 10 hours a day? Like, why not just 9 or like 9.5? United, when dealing with fear, how does one deal with the undesirable outcomes when going into uncertainty, which causes the anxiety? Also, how do we differentiate between giving into fear versus being cautious? What I find so important in general, and this is one of the reasons I really like acceptance and commitment therapy, because one of the fears that we can get hooked on is like, oh no, I've got to fix this mental illness. I've got to fix it and control it or bad things will happen. And one of the things I like about ACT is that we kind of say, no, like that's an experience. There's lots of other experiences, but let's look at how you do something well and start there. And an example I often give with this is the difference between drowning and swimming. And so you could say, I want to avoid drowning. Drowning is a bad thing. Let's avoid drowning. It's fine. You just never go near the water. You have avoided drowning. But if you want to learn how to swim, you will also learn skills that will help you avoid drowning. True, you are still at the risk of drowning if you're getting in the water, but you're going to engage in a practice to learn how to progressively handle that and to take yourself somewhere, to do something really like powerful and strong and about building and creating, and something that can actually help you go more places in life, something that broadens your life. Because the moment we sit, oh, my focus here is avoiding the problem, all I have to do is avoid all water. You've shrunk your life. But if you say, look, I want to learn how to swim well. And sure, yeah, on the way to that, like that's going to help me in a whole bunch of different situations that I don't want. But this is about learning how to swim well. And I found that so important, even when it comes to mental health. Like I would credit that approach with, like now it's been 10 years of recovery of not relapsing, because it's not about, I've got to avoid mental illness. Because the moment we do that, then we're like, fear is in charge, and I would be doing lots of things just kind of to control and avoid something I don't like. So I essentially would be in the practice of mental illness because I'm putting my life on hold to control a fear. And instead, no, it's about how do I do the things I want to do in life well? And that's the same with physical fitness. How do I build my physical fitness? And sure, yeah, like there's a risk of, me getting injured in the gym, for example. I'm I'm sure I could read the exercise myth and I'll be terrified. Like, I should not do difficult exercise. Like, one of the things in the back, because I've been doing a 5K running program recently, and this really was sparked by running becoming a popular exercise. It very much, it gives all the statistics on how much, because I weigh like 200 pounds, how much force I'm putting on my knees every time I go and run. So yeah, I could say, look, I don't want to avoid any knee problems, so I'm never going to run. But what I'd rather do instead is learn how to run well. And part of that is like learning how to care for myself so I'm not getting injured proactively. But it's about running faster and running further, not trying to like limit my life. And so that's always how I approach those things. You can get the same results as like avoiding a fear, but you can get much more when you shift the focus to how do I do something well proactively. Aaronella, your question is, how do you think I could overcome my too nice for my own good approach to interacting with others? I'm obsessed with the idea that I'm going to offend others and I'm the one who suffers. Setting boundaries. And so getting proactive with setting boundaries and asking for what you want is a great exercise that I had to practice because I struggled with so many social anxieties. I don't know if everybody's seen the recent video on the words in the brain. I called it a human brain. And one of the things I talked about in there is like, I just liked whatever other people liked because I wanted to be liked. And also, yeah, I didn't want to offend people or anything like that. And so, yeah, great practice was starting to ask people for things, starting to tell people things, like actually, and setting that up as an exercise. I'm going to go and practice when somebody says they like something that I don't like. I'm going to say, oh, I don't like that. Here's the thing that I really like. And it's like working out any muscle. We just got to practice it. But it's one of the reasons why I always say that mental health is the practice of being ourselves. We step into that fear. I'm going to practice being myself here, and I may risk somebody disliking that. And I'll handle that too. I'm going to trust myself to handle that. Miles, yes. Do you know how to get into and stay in the flow state? Again, it's about, so there is some to this, like I do in You Are Not a Rock, I talk about the awesome schedule. And so part of the awesome schedule is looking at what is really going to help you thrive. So how do you nourish yourself? How can you set up activities and supports in your life so you can move between them very easily? And one of the ways I always like to do that is sometimes making sure, so there's two things I'd say here. So one, if you notice things are kind of stuck and not in a flow state, I find it useful to kind of write that day off. Like, it's not about like now trying to fix it, and shift the focus to tomorrow. So how am I going to make tomorrow easier? So I'm able to do the things I value and not be struggling and get hung up on them. So that's one, when we're kind of stuck and not feeling like that flow is happening. But the other one is to look at, say, like a month or a year with that same kind of approach. How am I going to make things easy? How am I going to make it easy so I can keep doing the things I value and move very smoothly through them? And sometimes, again, coming back to beliefs, we may have a lot of beliefs about the things we need to do and how we should do them. And that's probably getting in the way of flowing through things. And so a huge risk, and what often gets us chucked out of flow, is that we're, again, trying to control uncertainty and needing, having a bunch of unhelpful beliefs around how much certainty we need to have and what we should be feeling. Because when you think flow, where the concept is very popular, is in video games. Quite often in video games, you don't have control over what's coming next. You just encounter it and you trust yourself to handle it and you apply your skills. And I think sometimes when people are trying to control flow in their own life, they want to be super certain about everything. But that uncertainty is not inherent in any of the kind of flow states that we might typically think of very easily as examples of flow, like playing sports or playing video games. So consider how you can bring uncertainty and give up some control if you want to bring that flow state into your everyday life and everyday practices and creating. Let's see here. Aaron, hey, just wanted to say thank you so much for your content. I always go to it in times of distress, allowing for a bit of clarity in the storm. I'm glad it can be there when you're running into that storm, Aaron. A bunch of people saying, hello, how are you? It is good to see you. Welcome, everybody. Rodrigo, you're welcome. A question there, extinct violate. Sometimes I think I solved the OCD problem by not doing the compulsions and letting it go. But sometimes I do the old compulsions, which is useless, but the habit's been rooted there. But I still try. And it's so important because, again, we get really judgmental about ourselves. It's so important to give ourselves compassion. And something that I found really important with actually leaving things like OCD behind was making compulsions okay. There are just things I do. Right? It's just about how do I want to spend my time and energy in life. And if I see that, I've just automatically gone back into some old habit or anything, even a new habit that I don't want to be doing, we can celebrate that awareness. Celebrate seeing, oh, look, I'm doing something I don't want to do. Okay, what would I rather spend my time and energy on? And then that's what we can do. So much of the challenges come from us, sticking those labels on us and really feeling stuck. I just did some old mistake I thought I cut out. So, oh no, what's this mean about me? And then we start to try to dig into it and chase certainty and control. And that's so much to carry. Make it easy on yourself. Do things and then do more things. Nella, I see you saying you have to go to the grocery store and, oh, you're saying you didn't hear the response to depersonalization. Well, the grocery store is super important. So the video for this will be up right after. So you can just scroll back through to the question. And then, but you are saying, you asked if meds can help to some extent. Again, that's something to talk about with your psychiatrist and stuff like that. What I would say around depersonalization, derealisation, that's what really helped me was recognizing those are compulsions I'm doing. So if I keep doing the compulsions, I'm going to keep struggling with the natural outcome of those compulsions. So yeah, whether the meds or not, that's something separate to talk about with your psychiatrist or your doctor. But when we're doing you may have missed it. I explained it with hitting yourself in the face with a frying pan. I have to stop hitting myself in the face with the frying pan. But absolutely, there can be lots of supports around that help us and make it easier to stop hitting ourselves in the face with the frying pan. Katie, you got a lot of beliefs. Oh, you have beliefs that you are a horrible person or still have feelings for a person from the past in a new relationship. How do I change unrealistic beliefs eventually? I might, maybe, it sounds like there's a whole bunch of different things in there you could probably look at. But one of the things that I'd look at in terms of beliefs is why can't you have those thoughts or feelings? Thoughts and feelings can be there. So much of the challenges we run into come from basically having an experience. The brain is just an organ. It's an organ like your stomach. And so, yeah, it's constantly digesting the world. It's also got the past stuck up there. It's constantly digesting stuff and throwing things out. Literally throwing out shit, just like your stomach and your gut. We've got to be careful about attaching all this meaning. We get very fused, what we call a cognitive fusion with the stuff in our head. It's whoa, I had a feeling, this is me. I am this feeling. And that is not useful. Yeah, you had a feeling, just like right now, maybe my stomach rumbles. That's okay. I am not that experience. I am not the stuff that my organs throw up. And yeah, a lot of that stuff is just indigestion. And so really bringing that kind of kindness to our brains and what they throw up in ourselves. Yeah, we're stuck with these weird organs that do weird stuff that annoys us. Helmi, you just said you just cried in the restaurant because your mother wouldn't let you wash your hands after touching the buffet table. And yeah, give yourself that compassion. But also, yeah, that was, potentially, you'd have to talk with your mom about it. But maybe your therapist told your mom to do that. It's not useful to always do the compulsions, ever. But we can be kind to ourselves when we run into that struggle with them. Clan, yes, is it okay to do the things you love while accepting the fact that you experience anxiety while you do the things you love? Oh yeah. I mean, that's the practice right there. That's what we wanted. I want to have any thought or feeling while I do the things I love. And what helps so much is approaching that like fitness. Like I want to go into the gym and lift the weights. And that's what we're doing when we say, look, I want to go and practice doing this thing I love while having anxiety, while having intrusive thoughts, while having depersonalization, while having depression. I want to learn what that's like. I want to make space for any feeling while I do the things I love. And the same goes for like happiness. I want to do it while being happy. I want to do it while being in love. Because so often we struggle with that too. We might be so infatuated and in love with somebody that we ditch the things we love. We're not taking care of ourselves. We're not supporting ourselves. That's the exact same compulsion, where we've kind of let this feeling just start to play us like a puppet. And then very quickly we run into challenges, and then it creates all sorts of issues and so on. So much of this work is about learning how to have any thought or feeling while we do something. And like that's the exercise. It's really saying, I want to have any thought or feeling. Let's see, we're close. We're like 3 minutes, but we might be able to fit in a bunch more questions. Let's see here. Do you think unconditional self-acceptance I see this question coming up all the time. So recently, and I know where it's coming from. So what I guess this unconditional like this is just like a basic, and even like when you think like Albert Ellis, yeah, like he's passed on now. This is like an old idea in mental health, and yeah, it's just of course, except like it's a common element, I would say, of many therapy modalities. Like I feel like nobody who works in mental health, who like actually works in mental health, would find the concept weird or even like unique as something to talk about. And so, yeah, when you have somebody going out there saying, like, unconditional self-acceptance is the key to recovery or something like that. So one, anybody who says like, et cetera, is the key to recovery. Like that's a common compulsion. Where like, I'm looking for the magical right ritual that's going to cure the problem. So there's that. Like that should always be suspect. It's the same as somebody saying an all meat diet is the cure to depression. Right away, you should be like, whoa, like that's the compulsion. This magic ritual will solve all of this problem, and you must do it or else. Right? You see the judging, and you got to get it right, and all of that. But then the other thing that I look at, like, of course, accepting anything is really useful. While we do things we value, and that's always going to be, acceptance is always going to be a useful practice. Like without putting judgments, like we were just talking, our brains do stuff, and so it's really useful to be like, okay, like my brain's doing stuff, and I did stuff. It's also like, yeah, like whatever I've done in life or whatever has happened, yeah, okay, like that stuff happened, but I'm here right now. I am not a time traveler. And so what am I going to do here in the present moment? I think everybody can consider that this week as well. I see Extinct, you asked too, what's my age? I am 40. I turned 40. Yeah, I turned 40 during the pandemic, like when things were in serious lockdown. So I didn't do a birthday party. I figured I would just save it until next year, assuming assuming we are out of the pandemic lockdown next year, I may save up a lot of birthdays and then do them all together. The AP, you asked a bunch of questions there. I'm going to see if I can tease through them. Sunid, you thought I was 30. No, it's really, I've been trying to get older for a long time, for years, because then it's like, it's useful in the work I do, because I think we do, many people are still reluctant, I think sometimes too, to work with somebody that is younger than them. But this is even, I mean, even when I was running a charity, I was like one of the youngest, if not the youngest person working there when I was the executive director. And so it even like when I do business stuff, it's looking very young. Doesn't always, not that I'm saying I look very young, but doesn't always work in your favor. So I've been, look at how long, how much, oh, if your message was rejected, okay, I will not read through it. And we've come up on an hour. I will do, now we're just talking about age. So that's age, totally irrelevant. But I think talking about, this is something maybe we'll touch on to wrap things up, because I think age comes up a lot too when we're getting stuck on judgments. And I hear this a lot. I get a lot of questions around this where people have developed, again, like some kind of set of rules around what they should be doing, when and why and how, and then constantly comparing themselves to others and getting upset about that. And just being aware of how we can really help ourselves and do, I'd say, like amazing things that we want to do in life by really bringing it back to this moment. Really bringing it back to right now and how we practice caring for ourselves and keeping success close. That the way to really do all those things that we really want to do is by like letting ourselves be successful now, like today. And so even a fun exercise that everybody can do this week is even each day, and this is something I love to do every day. When you wake up in the morning, when you look at the day, or you can do this the night before, look at the day. You're going to have some things you've got to do and deal with, and really ask yourself, how am I going to be successful today? And like make success an action that you do. It's with not this thing I've got to get. Success is a thing you are going to do, and then do it, and then celebrate it. Because we really hurt ourselves when we make success this far off thing we've always got to keep chasing, because then we feel like we're in this hole and we've got to dig our way out. It's not helpful. Keep success close, because when you're successful each day, what you find is that then you can spend success. Like, wow, like, oh, I did the thing I wanted to do. That's great. And we get energized by that, and we want to do more things. So again, the feelings follow the actions. So yeah, this week, like each day, how are you going to be successful each day? How are you going to be successful each day in a way that you control? So you're not constantly trying to dig your way out of a hole that you dug for yourself. You are whole. You are a complete, totally whole person. And today you get to spend that. And that can be a really awesome thing. Derek, you asked about the shirt. This was a test. I just printed this shirt to see how it would fit and feel, but it will be on the Toolkit site coming out. Right now for products on the Toolkit site, there's just the happy mug, but I'm going to do a shirt. So I've got a bunch of artists, but also, yeah, if you are anybody out there who is an artist, I'm working with a bunch of artists right now to turn mental health concepts into art, but that we can put on t-shirts. And then we'll do limited runs of t-shirts around these kind of mental health concepts like depersonalisation, derealisation, intrusive thoughts, stuff like nobody talks about, but has been such a big part of our lives, and sharing that. It's like, yeah, like just a fun way to engage our community and our team, but also, share about these interesting kind of difficult topics that we work on in a way that's fun. Because I think rather than doing it very clinically, let's make it into cool art that's engaging and then accessible to people. Okay. So everybody, enjoy making difficult topics accessible and engaging this week. Enjoy keeping success close. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining and taking part. As always, I really appreciate the support and all of the questions and you just being part of this community of us around the world, learning how to take care of our squishy urge blobs. So thank you to everybody. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful week.